My local casino is a real ripoff. Maybe I'm addicted to it. Every time I stand under dim synthetic light, every time I see flashing LEDs, and hear the whirring of slot machines, and clacking of poker chips, my heart races. I had $5,000 budgeted, and I wasn't going to walk out of that casino till I had doubled it or lost it. Sure, you could say I'm rich, but the only thing I can remember getting from wealth is paranoia. The benefits and leisure that so many seem to think come attached with wealth have passed me by. I know I'd spent a lot at that casino, and up until today little acknowledgement had been made about my existence, let alone my wealth. I'd have at least expected comped rooms or games or something. I've even heard of secret passages and high-stakes rooms in some places. It bothered me, but I figured stories of massive Vegas resorts wouldn't exactly be realistic expectations to foist upon the Native American casino near my house. The resort is rather modest. Nothing in the casino looks like it's been updated since the 80s, and the red floors and beige walls have a number of suspiciously unidentifiable stains, but it's the only place I've got, and you don't get free drinks playing online slots. Still, I at least wanted the dealers and waitresses to make small talk. I don't think I had ever heard them speak more than 3 words in a sentence before today. The casino itself is medium-sized, I guess. They've got a few good games, and it's usually not super crowded, but no one is overly friendly anyways. I was sitting at the bar, which is kind of in the middle of the floor, but the place is big enough that you couldn't see it if you were playing slots or a few other games. I usually only had a few cocktails before I started gambling, enough to have fun, but not enough to make too bad of decisions. I left my tip on the table and slowly got up, stretching my arms out. The table games were fairly close, and I made my way over to them. Out of the corner of my eye I could see the waitress grab my tip off the table and shoot me a fairly apathetic glance as I walked away. I sat down at the blackjack table. I usually started off with blackjack and, depending on how that went, continued with table games or moved to slots. I hadn't seen the dealer here before, but he was a younger guy, blonde hair and sunken blue eyes. Come to think of it, the casino was supposed to be on a reservation, but I'd only ever seen other white guys working there. I wondered if someone was being taken advantage of here, but it didn't bother me too much beyond being a little unsettling. "You new here?" "Yup, started Thursday," he responded. I thought it was Friday. Just seemed like a weird way to phrase it instead of saying yesterday. $100 bet to start. Ace. I get excited. 6. Dealer has a queen. I stand and he turned over a 9. Disappointing, but not unexpected. The dealer made some remark and I asked if he liked it here so far. "Sure. Do you?" It was a weird question. I mentioned they didn't talk much at the casino. This was probably the 3rd or 4th time I'd been asked a question other than what I wanted to drink or bet. It seemed like a poor business decision to ask questions that make your patrons wonder what they're doing at your casino. Still, what seemed stranger was how he managed to ask the question as if he was concerned, but put no emotion behind it. "When I win." I smiled. He flashed a smile that quickly faded. "I bet another 100 and lost again." It was time to walk away. Sometimes in these spots I continued, but not today. I walked past some slot machines and thought about playing a few spins but restrained myself, and after a short walk found myself in the bathroom. It was a sort of ritual. If I started off bad I went into the bathroom to wash my face off. I don't know if it made me play better, but it usually made me feel better. I turned on the faucet and let the cold water run through my hands a bit before dabbing them onto my face. I mentioned I was paranoid before. A while ago I read somewhere that you could tell if a mirror was a two-way mirror or not by putting your finger up to it, and I've been jabbing every mirror I've found since. I looked in the mirror. I put my finger to it. It was a two-way mirror. No matter what angle I looked from, my finger touched the finger in the mirror. That's how they said you could tell. I thought it couldn't be true. Another test. I cupped my hands and put them against my eye. This is supposed to block out the light in the room so you can see through the mirror. I leaned in. "Hey." I jolted, dropped my hands and turned around quickly. Got a lighter?" the man asked. He was wearing a suit. Not an expensive one, but it was still unusual for someone to wear a suit just to go gamble, and if this guy was asking me for a lighter in the bathroom I assumed he didn't work there. "No, sorry," I said. He had neat brown hair and strained eyes. He said nothing in response, but walked over the faucet next to the one I was using and began washing his hands, looking over at mine every few seconds. I felt awkward. I should have just checked the mirror. It would have been weird, but I knew something was wrong anyway. I walked out. I paced around the floor for a little bit, just thinking. I knew that guy was there to stop me from looking into the mirror, or window, or whatever. I calmed down, thinking about it logically. Casinos have cameras and stuff everywhere. Sure, I thought it was creepy, but I never really confirmed that it was a two-way mirror anyway. My mind was racing, and I autopiloted back to the blackjack table. "Back already?" the dealer asked. I didn't say anything, but I put up a $500 bet. I just wanted to burn through my money and leave at this point. Ace, Queen, Blackjack. Congratulations. The timing of this was too perfect, almost like they didn't want me leave, or maybe a strange sort of bribe. I needed to make a move right there. Hey, are there two-way mirrors in the bathrooms here? I figured it wouldn't be the best way to approach it, but I thought there was nothing they could do to me, and the new guy had given off an impression that I had gotten from no one else here. He kept peering down at the chips, seemingly not wanting to make eye contact. I don't know, but have you checked out the hotel? I hadn't. Like I said before, the casino had never offered me even discounted rooms. Take the stairwell. I cashed out. Small profit, but I didn't really care at this point. It felt like the whole casino had gone quiet when I walked over to the counter. The stairwell was near the back of the casino floor, decently far away from the elevators, and I started walking towards it. They were watching me. All of them. There were maybe about 30 people playing slots or drinking at the bar that I had to walk past. Maybe 5 employees, either standing around or serving people, and they were all staring at me. Not with malice though. Not even fear. It seemed like they were more curious than anything. There was a bald guy in a suit standing by the door to the stairwell, classic hitman type. Even through his sunglasses I could feel him staring at me. I took a deep breath and approached the door. It was too late to back out now. My legs were moving on their own, and it felt like a better idea to feign ignorance if he confronted me. He opened the door and held it as I walked through. I was surprised, but I couldn't let it show. Somehow this seemed more ominous than if I had been turned away. Behind me, I could see, out of the corners of my eyes, that everyone on the casino floor had begun to stand up and shuffle around like children waiting to be released for recess. The door closed behind me. I walked up the stairs and wondered which floor I should go to, but the choice was made easy for me. There was only one flight of stairs leading to a second floor. Yet when I had first entered the stairwell, it somehow gave the impression of stretching up much further. I put my hand against the metal push bar, and the heavy door clicked and slowly swung open. I was in a hallway. It was dark. The only lighting seemed to be coming from white LED strips along either side of the floor, almost like they were guiding me forward, and the carpet itself was a deep blue. As I looked around, I noticed that it seemed a lot less like a hotel hallway, and more like one you'd find in an office building. The walls were gray, and the 5 or so doors that lined either wall seemed cheaply made, and had those regular brass door handles without locks. They weren't numbered, or labeled with any other identifiers. I could have tried to open any one of them, but something was pulling me towards the door at the end of the hallway. It looked like all of the others, but it was in front of me and I could hear a faint humming coming from it the closer I walked. I felt a faint pressure building behind my temple as I walked forwards, and it was slowly getting worse. By the time I made it to the door, my head was pounding inside, and I could barely think straight. I grabbed the handle and hesitated for what felt like an hour before slowly turning it. The door clicked open and I hesitated once more before flinging it open in one violent motion. I let out a small breath, but there was nothing to gasp at. From the doorway I could see a powered-on computer monitor sitting atop a small desk. The computer itself looked rather old and lay on the floor underneath the desk. This seemed to be the source of the humming noises, and I felt silly for thinking it was something more sinister. I stepped into the room. It was small. There was a cheap mattress with some blankets on it shoved against the left wall, and against the right was a pile of clothes and a messy stack of papers and books. Someone was living here, and I thanked God that they weren't there. I guess I should have left, but my headache still hadn't gone away, and I felt maybe it was signaling that something more was missing. I also wasn't going to walk back into the casino after what I had seen. I walked over to the pile of papers in the corner and picked one off the top. There was a calculator on top of it, and the paper had some basic arithmetic scrawled onto it, along with some phrases like operating cost and revenue tossed around. Regardless, it seemed like the person who wrote it was inexperienced with running any sort of business. I looked closer. $5,000, plus $50. Blackjack. The easy feeling that had washed over me vanished. That paper had obviously been written on some time ago. There was an old coffee stain in one of the corners and the ink had faded a bit. I had only started gambling about an hour ago, and yet it had exactly how much I walked into the casino with, exactly how much profit I made, and on exactly what game. My heart started to race and my headache got worse. I quickly rifled through some of the other pages and they all had similar notes and calculations on them. I stopped. It was time. I suppose subconsciously I had been putting it off, but the obvious thing to do was check the computer. I walked over to the desk, and sat in the office chair in front of it. I could hear my heartbeats like drums, and my stomach felt like it was tying knots. But why? At worst I had just found out some scam. Nothing super weird. But I knew it wasn't locked or anything. It was just sitting open on the desktop, but there was nothing on it. Just the recycle bin, Chrome, and one folder labeled journal. I opened it. There were hundreds of text files, only labeled with numbers. I opened the first one and read it. I opened the second and read it. I opened the 50th and read it. They were all the same. All exactly like this post. I always started off with blackjack, always made a small profit or loss, always recognized something was wrong, and always end here, writing this post. My headache went away. Sir? A voice from behind me. I turn my head around, but keep typing. The bald guy from before. Time for bed. I don't feel afraid. I feel comfortable.